Hello, learners! Welcome to our lesson on effective communication. Today, we will discover that communication is not limited to the words we speak. Sometimes, our face, eyes, hands, posture, voice, and even the distance we keep from another person can communicate a message. These are called nonverbal cues. As we go through the lesson, think about this question: how can I communicate even without saying a word? At the end of this lesson, you should be able to first, recognize the importance of nonverbal cues. Second, identify their effects on effective communication. Third, give examples of different nonverbal cues and their meanings. And fourth, choose appropriate nonverbal strategies for different situations. Remember, our goal is not only to identify these cues, but also to use them appropriately when communicating with others. Before we begin, let's check what you already know. Read each question and choose your answer before I reveal it. Number 1. A student avoids eye contact while reciting. What might this suggest? The answer is nervousness. Number 2. Which nonverbal cue refers to the use of space? The answer is proxemics. Number 3. Speaking very loudly during a conversation may communicate what? It may communicate confidence or anger depending on the situation. Number 4. What nonverbal cue involves touch? The answer is haptics. Keep these terms in mind because we will discuss them further. Nonverbal cues are ways of communicating without using words. They include our facial expressions, gestures, eye contact, posture, tone of voice, appearance, use of space, use of time, touch, and many others. For example, imagine that your friend does not say anything but smiles and gives you a thumbs up. Even without saying words, you probably understand that your friend is showing approval or encouragement. That is the power of nonverbal communication. Why nonverbal cues are important? First, they help us express emotions clearly. Second, they support our spoken messages. Third, they help us build relationships and influence how people see us. They also affect how our messages are interpreted. For example, imagine someone saying, "I'm okay," but while saying it, the person is crying. Would you believe that the words alone? Probably not. This shows that nonverbal cues can sometimes reveal more than spoken words. There are several types of nonverbal communication that we will study. These include kinesics, body language, oculesics, eye contact, proxemics, use of space, haptics, touch, vocalics, tone and voice, chronemics, use of time, appearance, how we present ourselves, environment, our surroundings, artifacts, our personal belongings, olfactics, smell. Don't worry about memorizing everything immediately. We will discuss each examples. Let's begin with kinesics. Kinesics refers to our body movements, including posture, gestures, facial expressions, and even the way we walk. For example, nodding can mean agreement. Rolling our eyes may communicate annoyance. Slouching may suggest boredom. Crossing your arms may sometimes be interpreted as defensiveness or discomfort. However, always remember that context matters. Someone might cross their arms simply because they are cold, so we should avoid judging people because on only one gesture. Next is oculesics, or the use of eyes when communicating. Eye contact can communicate confidence, attention, interest, or emotion. Avoiding eye contact may sometimes suggest nervousness or shyness. Maintaining appropriate eye contact may communicate confidence and interest. A warm look can also communicate affection and care. However, eye contact should always be understood within the person's culture and situation because expectations about eye contact may differ. Proxemics refers to how we use physical space when communicating. Think about how close you stand to your best friend compared with how close you stand to a stranger. A close distance may communicate friendship or closeness. Moving away from someone might communicate discomfort. These are also different zones of space: intimate, personal, social, and public space. For example, inside a crowded jeepney, maintaining personal space can be difficult. Because of this, we adjust our behavior depending on the situation. Haptic refers to communication through touch. A handshake may communicate professionalism. A pat on the back may communicate encouragement. A hug may communicate affection or comfort. However, touch must always be respectful, appropriate, and sensitive to another person's personal boundaries. Not everyone is comfortable with the same kind of physical contact. Another important nonverbal cue is vocalics, also called as paralanguage. This refers not to the words themselves, but to how we say them. It includes our tone, pitch, volume, articulation, and speaking rate. For example, speaking softly may sometimes suggest shyness. Talking very quickly may suggest nervousness. Speaking loudly may communicate confidence, excitement, or anger, depending on the context. Try saying, "Galit ka ba?" You can say those same words in a concerned, joking, or angry tone. The words remain the same, but the meaning can change because of the voice. Chronemics refers to how we communicate through the use of time. Being punctual can communicate respect and responsibility. Being repeatedly late may create a negative impression. Interrupting someone may also communicate impatience or disrespect. Even the timing of a message can communicate meaning. For example, receiving an unexpected call very late at night might make you think that something urgent happened. So, time itself can communicate a message. Our appearance can also communicate information. This includes our clothing, hairstyle, grooming, and accessories. For example, wearing a school uniform may communicate belonging to a particular school. Formal attire may communicate professionalism. Proper grooming may help create a positive impression. However, remember that we should not judge a person's character or ability based only on appearance. Appearance communicates an impression, but it does not tell us everything about a person. Our environment or surroundings can also influence communication. Room arrangement, lighting, seating, and even everywhere a person stands can send message. For example, a teacher standing in front of the class may communicate authority or leadership. Sitting at the head of the table may suggest a leadership role. Lighting can also influence the mood of conversation. So, communication is affected not only by people but also by the space where communication happens. Artifacts are personal belongings that may communicate information about us. Examples including clothing, jewelry, gadgets, bags, vehicles, and other possessions. These objects may influence people's impressions about someone's lifestyle, interests, personality, or status. For example, carrying a vintage camera make someone think that a person is interested in photography or creative activities. However, just like appearance, artifacts should not be used as only basis for judging someone's personality. Olfactics refers to communication through smell. A pleasant scent can create a positive impression. An unpleasant odor may cause discomfort. Smell can also trigger memories and emotions. For example, a familiar perfume might remind you of a particular person or experience. This shows that even our sense of smell can influence communication. Synchrony happens when people's nonverbal behaviors work together or become similar during communication. For example, when your friend is sharing something serious, you may naturally change your facial expression and tone to match the situation. When everyone is cheering during a sports event, people may clap and shout together. Synchrony can show that people are connected and responding to one another. Nonverbal communication can have powerful effects. When used appropriately, it can build trust, improve relationships, clarify spoken messages, and influence people's emotions and reactions. However, nonverbal cues can also create misunderstandings. For example, someone with crossed arms may appear defensive even though the person is simply cold. This is why we should consider the situation, context, and other cues before interpreting someone's behavior. Now, let's apply what you have learned. For each situation shown on the screen, identify three things. First, what nonverbal cue is being used? Second, what could the cue mean? Third, what effect could it have on communication? Pause the video if you need more time. Remember that there are many, sometimes be more than one reasonable interpretation, so you explain your answer based on the situation. Before we end, reflect on what you have learned. Complete these statements. I realize that communication is not only about words because, and one nonverbal habit I should improve is think about your own communication habits. Do you maintain appropriate eye contact? Do you listen without interrupting? Is your tone respectful? Are your gestures appropriate? Effective communication begins with becoming aware of your behavior. To summarize our lesson, communication is more than the words we speak. Our facial expressions, gestures, eye contact, posture, voice, personal space, appearance, time, surroundings, belongings, and even smell can communicate meaning. The key is to use these nonverbal strategies appropriately, respectfully, and according to the situation. Always remember, sometimes the most powerful messages are communicated without words. Thank you for participating in today's lesson.